All right, hang on. I'm trying to get everybody sent the links. There we go. There we go. What's up? So with Aria, I was sitting on the couch and she was calm, and I was like, she's going to go to sleep early. I'm going to try to lay her down first. So I waited for a little while until I got to that point where I was like, okay, I can lay her down. I can put her in her bed and she won't fight me. It was perfect. I went in there. I got her onto the front. I took her like lead off, stuck it on the table next to me, and she just curled up right here. And I just gave her all the kisses and the lovin's and everything. I said, okay. I said, are you ready for night night? I said, did you get enough mommy lovin's? And she leaned forward and went right in there. And I closed the door and I was like, oh my God, that was so perfect. She didn't grab on. She didn't fight me. She didn't try to go down in my shirt. She was so ready for bed. I'm so excited. Granted, she is now running around in there, but I'm pretty sure that she's ready for bed. It was perfect. It was perfect. I see you, Amy. I see you, Amy. Hello, Amy. Oh my gosh. It was the sweetest and I loved it. It was at one of those perfect moments where I was like, I'm going to ruin this and she's going to turn into a jumping madman if I try to turn on my live right now. So I waited a little longer. That's why a lot of the times I just want to enjoy her when she's cuddly. Hey, Christy Jorgensen. What's up? What's up, y'all? What up, what up, what up? How's everybody doing tonight? How's everybody doing tonight? We ready to get this book done? Are we ready to finish this off? Amy! What's up, Amy? Hello, hello, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Nick. I am so ready to finish this off. Hell yeah. We're going to get it done. Super excited. Dang, 2 injections? Holy cow. That's crazy. Oh my goodness. That is a lot. I would never be able to do that. I would never. See, that's like whenever they wanted to give me pain management for my back and they were talking about putting a cortisone shot in my spine. I was like, no, thank you. I'm good. Hey, that's okay. That's okay. I've been able to get up every morning and it's already ready to go. And all I have to do is schedule it. So the fact that the lives are processing and uploading perfectly, I am happy with that. So that means that I can actually just set them up and get ready to go. Tomorrow it's going to be, let's see, it's 10, noon, and 2 is when each one of them is going to go on. And you can skip through all the bullshit of me talking. Just read, bitch. So there's that. Yeah, they wanted to do the cortisone injections in my back, and I was like, no, thank you. So my biggest thought process on that was the fact that if I was able to give birth without an epidural, I don't need a shot in my back at all. So no, thank you. Numbing to get tubed. Oh. Ugh. Just give you a little shot of succinylcholine. That'll relax everything to get that tube down. I'm just kidding. We don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. That relaxes every muscle in the body, including the ones needed to breathe. But succinylcholine will relax everything. I know that's not what you want. They'll have to put you in, they'll have to put a breathing tube in there to help you breathe. It's crazy. That tube made you gag, but not in a good way. That's always fun. That is always fun. Are we ready? I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it done. Christy Jorgensen. Mm. I am super ready. Let me see. I want to read what the last line says. I'm not going to read it out loud. I'm not going to read it out loud. I'm just going to read it to myself real quick because I want to remember what's on the end. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Who's ready for the fucked? Who's ready for the defucked part? This is going to get crazy. It's going to get crazy because the picture that's on the cover, that's what we're going to be reading about, is the picture that's on the cover. So you get to find out how she ends up like this. Oh, yeah. Oh, and if you look at the cover really closely, right over here, there is the skin that was flayed off her knee right here. That skin actually sits right here across her arm. And I'll actually describe that for you. Yes. All right. Here we go. I called Lee to release Charlotte and Jillian. They're on their way here. They're on their way and should be here any minute, I told Rage when he returned with the photo. Sorry. Well, good. Then we will wait for them. You really should have support before you see this photo, Rage said, sounding as though he was concerned for my well-being. Why are you doing this? I asked. I'm only here to protect you. Jasper is unable to provide you with adequate protection. I will always be here for you. I have come to care for you like family. I would never want anything bad to happen to my family, Rage said, standing behind me, the photo in one hand and his other hand on my shoulder. I was glad when Charlotte and Jillian entered the room. Detective Rage backed away from me and changed his tone back to the helpful police officer he was before. I stood up to greet them. Thank goodness you are finally here. They are holding Jasper for 72 hours because someone came forward and said they saw him come out of Wendy's room shortly before her body was discovered. I told them as we hugged. Who said that? Charlotte asked, punching one fist into the palm of the other hand. I don't know. He won't tell me. I had tears escaping and rolling down my cheeks as I gestured toward Rage. This is crazy, Detective. Jasper would never hurt anyone, Jillian said, trying to reason with Rage. I'm sorry, ladies, but if someone saw him leaving the room before the body was discovered, I have every right to detain him for questioning. Now, if you are ready, I have the photo from the crime scene at May's house right here, Rage said, holding up the plastic evidence bag. Charlotte and Jillian sat down at the table with me. Rage placed the photo on the table. I was approximately 5, maybe 6 years old in the photo. I was sitting on the floor, playing with toys. I recognized the living room as May's house. The orange and yellow shag area rug, along with the dark brown sofa and a gold chair, were very familiar to me. From the angle the photo was taken, the photographer was outside the front window. I turned the photo over, and there it was, the ominous message, pasted in individual letters cut from several magazine ads. The words were, "You're next." Is this supposed to mean he's coming after me next? I asked. Not if we can stop him in his tracks. The officers that are at the center now will stay there and guard the doors. We are placing 2 at each entrance, and that does not include your full-time security guard. He will continue monitoring the grounds. I'm also placing 2 outside of your door. If you are in your room, they will be there. If you're in your office, They will be there. Unfortunately, with the heightened security, you will be unable to admit any more patients until Wendy's murder is solved. No one may be released, Rage informed. They're not patients. They are guests, and I can't hold them hostage. If they don't feel safe, I can't tell them, too bad, you're stuck here. What do I do, or what do I tell a guest if they decide they want to leave? I inquired. I don't care what you call them. No one is to be released from the facility until this is sorted out. No one scheduled to leave is free to go. Everyone living there is technically a suspect. The clinic is closed. Rage instructed. We are not a clinic, detective. We are a recovery center. And what are we supposed to tell the guests that are currently residing there? They can't have any visitors? Charlotte incurred. Absolutely no visitors, no outsiders of any kind. No one goes in and no one comes out. That just doesn't seem fair to anyone, Jillian said. At least that will keep Rebecca out of the center for a while. Rage mocked the situation. Am I able to go now? I just want to see Jasper before I leave. I think I'm done talking to you, I said, standing and folding my arms across my chest. Yes, you can go. Unfortunately, I cannot allow you to see Jasper. He will be freed if we find evidence to clear him, or after 72 hours if we can't find enough to charge him, Rage said. He didn't do anything, detective, and when this is over, expect a lawsuit, I told him. Charlotte and Jillian stood up, and the three of us left the room. We were almost out of the station when Charlotte spoke. Is it just me, or does Detective Rage seem as though he has become a little creepy? It's not just you. He told me it was his job to protect me from the killer, and if Jasper is the killer, then he will protect me from him. The strangest part, when he told me he had come to think of me like family, I said as we walked through the parking lot toward our vehicles. Family? What the hell did he mean by that? Charlotte wondered. I don't know. He's just a cop to me. I see the interactions with him as professional. Nothing says we are friends or even family. His obsession with me is becoming uncomfortable and unprofessional. I don't know if I should report his behavior or just let it go, I said, leaning against the passenger door of my car. Maybe you should talk to Agent Lee about him. He might be able to give you in She might be able to give you insight as to what to do, Jillian suggested. That sounds like a great idea. I will talk to her as soon as we get back to the center, I told them. We'll meet you there. Don't worry, Mackenzie. We will help you through this. I know Jasper didn't kill anyone, Jillian said before we split up into separate vehicles. As I drove back to the center, I kept thinking about what Detective Rage had said. It seemed odd to me that he would come to think of me as family. He was a police detective to me and nothing more. Our only contact consisted of discussing a crazed maniac who was out there killing people. I had never had any other discussions with him. I don't know anything about his personal life, and there was no reason for me to know anything about his personal life. He had changed from the first time we had met. Of course, a misunderstanding on my part had got Charlotte, Jillian, Jasper, and me arrested. Once we explained what happened, Rage understood the miscommunication and let us go. He was just a detective, and he played the part. For him to be there when I woke up in the hospital after a botched amputation made sense. He was there to question me and get as much information as he could while it was still fresh in my mind. He was there to help when someone blabbed to the media I had survived an attack from the butcher. Rage was there to help me with the packages Malachi was sending to identify himself to me. To me, he was just doing his job. He was in no way my friend, nor supporting me like family. The foster families I had growing up were only rented. I never stayed in one foster home long enough to know true family life. The only family I had ever had was Charlotte, Jillian, and Jasper. Tom and Mark were included in for being married to the ones I thought of as my sisters. But I didn't want some random person inserting themselves into my life and claiming to be family. In order to protect myself from loss, abandonment, or possibly putting myself in danger by trusting a random stranger, I made sure to always trust my instincts when it came to letting people into my life. When I pulled into the parking lot of the center, I noticed all the police were still there, just as Rage had told me they would be. From what I could see, though, none of them were guarding the front doors. I saw Charlotte and Jillian pull in and park shortly after I did. They came over and met me near my car as I gathered my purse in order to exit the vehicle. The three of us walked up to the front door together. Just inside, I saw Agent Lee sitting at the reception desk writing something down on a yellow legal pad. Thank goodness you are still here, I said to her when she stood after noticing us. I've been waiting for you. No, no one here saw or heard anything, including the kids that are here with their parents. Vouch for the fact that each parent was in the room with them. The kids that are here alone all bunk with another kid who can confirm their whereabouts, Lee informed. Okay, but who is the witness who said they saw Jasper coming out of Wendy's room before Amber discovered her body? I wondered. What are you talking about? Lee inquired. Detective Rage is holding Jasper for the next 72 hours for questioning because an eyewitness can put him coming out of Wendy's room, I told her. No one here said anything about that, Lee said. Then who is Rage talking about? I said, as a lump formed in my throat, tears burning my eyes. Wait, didn't Rage take Amber to the station for processing? What if she is the witness? Lee pointed out. Holy shit, Amber, Charlotte blurted. No way. Amber wouldn't just lie like that. What would she gain from it? I pondered. She would have lied to redirect focus off of her and onto someone else, Lee suggested. Rage accused Jasper of having an affair. What if Amber was having an affair with Wendy's boyfriend and Amber really saw him coming out of Wendy's room after he killed her? And now she is trying to put the blame on someone else, I hypothesized. Wendy's boyfriend hardly ever came to visit, and when he did, he and Wendy were always arguing. I don't think he took the time to get to know anyone else at the center, Charlotte said. Not only that, but she hadn't spoken up until this morning. How would they have gotten to know each other if she never talked? Jillian asked. So what happened with the photo? Lee wanted to know. Detective Rage brought me the photo. On the back, the message read, "You're next." That isn't even the worst part. The detective is beginning to make me feel uncomfortable, I informed Lee. Uncomfortable how? Lee asked, concerned. He seems to be getting personally invested in my life. He was preaching to me about how the family I chose can't protect me, and I need to find the family I was born into. Then he tells me he sees me as family. He touched my shoulder and insinuated my husband is a dangerous person and he is trying to protect me from him. I don't know Detective Rage very well, but I can tell you that is very unprofessional police interaction. I can have the FBI look into his background. That would be great. The only problem is, I don't know his first name, I said. Yeah, he never has told us his first name. We only know him as Rage, Charlotte chimed in. When he introduced himself to me, he told me his first name was Carter, Lee told us. Wait a minute, Carter? Where do I know that name from? Jillian pondered. That was the last name Rage gave me for Rebecca. He told me the house next to May had two women named Rebecca that lived there. One, Rebecca Carter, and two, Rebecca Sims. Since May called me Mackenzie Sims, I didn't think twice about Carter, I informed. There is something weird about that. Let me have our technical analyst look into him and I'll let you know, Lee said, pulling out her cell phone. Sounds great. Has Amber made it back from the station yet? I asked Lee. No. And last time I talked to Detective Rage, he said he was probably going to keep her overnight for more questioning. He said he would bring her back when he was done with her, Lee informed. Good. Will you let us know if he decides to bring her back early? I'm going to look through her room and see if I can find something about her past, I said. Sure, but I could find out about her as well, Lee told me. It's more the fact that she freaked out a little when I told her that I would get her a change of clothes from her room. She said she didn't want anyone in her room. I want to know what she is hiding in there, I informed her. Well, if you find anything incriminating, let me know. I will see what I can do about getting a search warrant so it can't be considered inadmissible in court, Lee said as we headed up the stairs toward Amber's room. Shouldn't she be telling us that it is illegal for us to go go through someone else's things? Jillian asked. Charlotte and I giggled at Jillian's naivete. Uh, Jillian, yes, probably. But luckily for us, she is on our side. She knows I'm suspecting Amber, and she's probably suspecting Amber as well. That could be the reason she is going to allow us to search for evidence. Technically, I own the center and should have all rights to go through a guest's room to ensure they are safe and not going to harm themselves or others, I said. You know what? You're right. You are just here to make sure that she is safe and she is not going to harm herself or anyone else. Good thinking, Charlotte said as her and Jillian followed me through the door of Amber's room. Luckily, we didn't allow locks on the front doors for reasons of suicidal guests. I opened the door and we stepped in. It felt like the first time I had ever been in her room, even though I had just been in there earlier to get her clothes. What exactly are we looking for? Jillian asked. I don't know, really. Anything that could explain uh, who she really is and where she came from, I told her. We began rifling through drawers. Holy crap, that just came down on top of me. Everyone's still there. Are we good? Oh my gosh. Okay. My bad. I'm going to continue. What exactly are we looking for? Jillian asked. I don't know, really. Anything that could explain who she really is and where she came from, I told her. We began rifling through drawers and items on shelves. Charlotte decided to search the closet while Jillian and I looked through everything else. I couldn't find anything that suggested she was anything but a normal young lady. What that was until I heard Charlotte gasp. What did you find? I asked, rushing over to where she knelt down. There has got to be at least a couple hundred of these, Charlotte said, referencing a handful of notebooks she was holding. What are those? Jillian inquired. The closet was stacked with boxes. Each of the boxes was filled to the brim with black and white composition notebooks. She has been notating everything Mackenzie has done since she was in the hospital after Malachi dropped her off. Literally everything is in these, Charlotte informed, passing one to Jillian and one to me to go through. The three of us sat on the floor and began reading as many as we could. Whew. Okay. I don't know. It's a ghost. A ghost from behind had to have been. My whole iPad just fell over. It was weird. It just like fell at me right after I yawned. So one of you must have poked your screen and said, "Wake up, bitch," and then it fell over on me. That's what happened, wasn't it? Is that what happened? Is that what you did? Stop yawning. I'm just kidding. So now they have found a shit ton of these notebooks that Amber, I know, right? That Amber has been writing everything down in from the time that Mackenzie, oh my God, my brain fart, from the time that Mackenzie was in the hospital the first time. Why would Amber have notebooks from when Mackenzie was in the hospital the first time? What is going on with Amber? And what is the deal with Detective Rage? How weird is that guy? I mean, it's getting a little crazy. Shit is happening. Shitteth is hitting the faneth. So, as we continue, I know, right? Anyway, as we skimmed through the notebooks, each of us had stacks building up on the floor in front of us. Shortly after midnight, Lee walked up and stood in the doorway. Okay, ladies, Rage is on his way back with Amber. Y'all better hurry and pick this stuff up. You don't want her to know you were in here. We picked up all the notebooks we had taken out and put them back in the box. As I placed the stack I had I had been reading into the bottom, I noticed one notebook still inside with a title on the front which read, "My Plan to Get into the Center." I quickly grabbed it and allowed Charlotte and Jillian to place their stacks in the box. "Mackenzie, what are you doing? Come on, put it back," Charlotte said. "I'm going to hold on to this one," I told her, staring at the words printed on the front. "She's going to know we were in here," Jillian said, her voice wavering. "No, she won't. Just put the box back and let's get out of here," I said, heading for the door. Charlotte, Jillian, and I, along with Lee, raced from the third floor down the stairs to the second floor. We entered the room I shared with Jasper. The second floor was set up differently than the floors above. Floors 3 through 5 had a line of rooms that were above the kitchen and dining area in the back of the center, but the second floor had 2 extra rooms. There was one room directly above each therapy room and just as large as the therapy rooms. One of those rooms was mine, and the other was used for storage. Both rooms were positioned in an alcove all by themselves, so there would be no reason for anyone to walk by, but Lee radioed for 2 officers to come stand guard. "Did you find anything worth reporting?" Lee asked. "Maybe. I'm going to do a little more research. I'll let you know in the morning," I told Lee, holding up the notebook for her to see. She nodded, peeped out the door, and waved at the uniformed officers before saying, "Okay, y'all get some sleep, and in the morning I'll come back so we can go through it together." Lee motioned towards Jillian and Charlotte as they yawned simultaneously. I shrugged, smirked, and raised my eyebrows. "Sounds like a good idea to me," Jillian said, rubbing her eyes like a toddler. "I'll get the girls to bed, and we'll see you in the morning," I joked as I hugged Lee. Lee left for the night, and I loaned the girls each a pair of pajamas. I placed the notebook on the side table next to the oversized chair, and the 3 of us changed for bed. We settled into the bed the way we used to as kids. Charlotte on the end, closest to the door, Jillian in the middle, and me on the other end. Before lying down, I removed my prosthetic and set it aside. "Good night, girls," Charlotte said as she clicked off the bedside lamp. Once I was sure they were asleep, Charlotte's throaty breathing, almost a snore, but not quite, and Jillian's nose whistle, I reached for my prosthetic and reattached it, then slowly lowered myself off the bed and made my way to the oversized chair. I clicked on the small lamp on the side table, picked up the notebook, and began reading. It was numbered by the day instead of being dated. The person who wrote in the notebook was not the same person I knew. "What's up, Camaro?" "Well, welcome back." I hope they had fun. Did they have fun? Did they have fun? That much I want to know. So, what I'm reading right now is that they had found a shit ton of notebooks in Amber's room. Amber's the one who didn't talk, blah, 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 whatever. Now she's talking. So they had found a shit ton of notebooks in Amber's room, and now they're going through one that says "My Plan to Get into the Center." So that's what they're reading now. Okay. First one. It read, Day 1. From what I have seen in the past few days, Mackenzie seems to have a thing for people who are broken, mentally and physically broken. I need to figure out I need to figure out a way to become broken. I don't plan on losing any limbs, so that's out. Maybe if I say I was raped, I could get in. It may seem a little sadistic considering how horrible rape is, but there is something worse planned for her, so lying about rape can't be that bad. I can't just walk in the front door and say, "I've been raped," and expect to become one of the patients. What I can do is find an unsuspecting patsy to bring home and ensure that during a physical examination, it will appear as though I have been raped. When I get to the hospital, all I have to do is play the victim in order to get them to recommend I go to the center. Stupid little bitch won't even see me coming. Day 2. In search of sadomas- sadomasochist to violate my inner being. I haven't been able to find the right person yet. No one seems rough enough to report, and the three of them, and the three from last night refuse to hit me. I will keep trying until I find the right one. I need to have some bruising to make it seem legit. Of course, if I don't get in soon, Daddy may jump the gun and just kill her anyway. I told him we need to make sure she is the one we were looking for and not just another one of Malachi's toys. Plus, I want to get as much sympathy from her as she's willing to give. If I gain her trust and reel her in through sympathy, it will be easy to get her to go with me when her time comes. It went on for days where she was trying to find someone to beat her during sex so she could make it appear as though she had been raped. There were some days she noted that she had 3 to 4 guys at one time. I was appalled that the sweet girl I had come to know was just acting. Her silence was for sympathy and not out of genuine fear. I wasn't sure how to approach the situation. The decision on whether to comfort her or continue to play along in her sick game was clearly up to me. I flipped through several pages, then continued reading. Day 18. Daddy says if I can't find someone in the next couple of days, he will take care of it for me. I couldn't tell if he meant Mackenzie or if he was going to rape and beat the shit out of me. I think I have found the one I'm going to report. He agreed to slap me around a little last night. I need to make sure he leaves a few visible marks and bruising. I will need to make it look like I tried to fight him off. Day 20. One more night with this guy, and I will be bruised and beaten enough to claim he raped me. I'm not sure what his name is, but the poor sap doesn't know my name either. He thinks he's helping me work out my daddy issues. As a matter of fact, I don't have any issues with my daddy. He is the reason I am doing this. He wants to get back at Mackenzie as much as I do. He says he has confirmed she is the one we are looking for, and I will have no doubt when flaying all of her skin off her body. At that point, I realized I had 2 enemies and somehow they were connected to Malachi. The worst part was one of them had finagled their way into my life. Amber had lied her way into the recovery center for revenge. Not knowing who she really was the only thing holding me back from storming into her bedroom and kicking her ass for deceiving us all. I was so intent on finding out who she was and what I had done to her, I had decided I would continue to play along. I didn't think she was the copycat killer, but I had a feeling her daddy was the connection. I just needed to figure out who he was. I flipped past the description of what she did with the poor guy who was being deceived as much as I was, and found the day she began her acting career. Day 22. I did it. Today I played the victim. Last night I was able to receive a swollen black eye, bloody nose, and hell, I think he may have even fractured my arm. I woke up this morning dressed in the tattered outfit Daddy gave me, slammed my face into the wall in order to give myself a bloody lip and ensure my blood was found on my shirt. Then I headed out to the hospital. I walked in, stepped up to the check-in counter, and when I was approached, I dropped to the floor, just like Daddy showed me, and pretended to pass out. He would be so proud. I screamed every time a man approached me. Maybe a couple more days of this, and I could be in the Ansley Kirkland Recovery Center. Easy. I'm glad they didn't go through the bag I brought with me. They would have found this notebook, and I need to continue to document my progress so Daddy can see I'm a good helper. She was in the hospital for 2 weeks. I had each account of her crazy actions being notated, both from Amber and the hospital. I had a copy of her file from the medical standpoint. She appeared to be an extremely emotionally wounded woman. On the other hand, from reading her own words, she's a psycho. From the entries that I had read, I saw Amber Harwell as a monster. Anytime any male came into her hospital room, she would immediately start screaming, and it would take sometimes up to an hour to calm her down. The officers who took the report all had to be women. Her nurses and even her doctor had to be women. Finally, after 14 days, the hospital decided it was time for her to go and gave her the information to the center. When she arrived at the center, she made a separate entry in the notebook. It read, "Finally made it. I'm sitting outside the center right now. I need a plan. I have to figure out who I'm going to play. I think I'm going to be mute. If I don't talk, maybe she will maybe she will talk more. I might be able to find out more about her if I just keep quiet. There really isn't any reason for me to speak. I don't want to accidentally say something that could potentially tip her off as to who I really am. I need Mackenzie to think I am just another broken patient who needs her attention. I can do this. I'm going inside. Daddy will be so proud." I closed the notebook and placed it back down on the side table. I felt so betrayed. Who was this person? What did I do to her? She mentioned Malachi, but what is her relation to him? The only thing she would admit in her writing was that her and her father were ensuing revenge upon me, but she never said why. At that point, I switched off the side table lamp and walked back over to the bed, deciding I would get deciding I would get some sleep and discuss the entire situation with Charlotte, Jillian, and Lee in the morning. I sat down on the bed and with a heavy sigh, I again removed my left leg and set it up next to the bed. Damn. Who? Oh, and you've already missed the rage creepy part, but Rage will continue getting creepy. Because I see Camaro said that she doesn't trust Amber or Rage. Well, Rage got a little creepy. So I think we're all at that standpoint at this. I only got 6 more chapters to read. Well, 7, because 19 and then 20 and through 25. But gotta keep going because this is getting juicy. Ugh. Okay. When I woke up the next morning, Charlotte and Jillian were both trying to fit on the oversized chair together. They were arguing over who would hold the notebook while they read it. "I read faster than you do, so I should hold it," Jillian whispered. "That's only because you read more than I do. I'm being squished over here, so I should hold it," Charlotte argued. "Those aren't even valid argument points. You're just complaining," Jillian retorted. "How about the two of you come back to bed and I'll tell you what it says," I said, causing both of them to jump and scream. "Good golly, Mackenzie. You could have at least made noise or warned us first before speaking. I almost peed a little," Charlotte said, standing, clutching the center of her chest and walking toward the bed. "You think I was intentionally trying to scare you? Well, if I was really planning to make you piss your pants, I would have snuck up behind the chair and popped up over your head," I informed them. "Good to know," Jillian said, laughing. "I would love to see how you would sneak up on us, though. Your squeaky metal leg with your squeaky metal leg." Before they could settle in, the bedroom door swung open and 2 uniformed officers stood in the doorway with their guns drawn. All 3 of us screamed that time. "Is everything okay in here?" one officer asked. "Yes, we're fine. I spooked them is all. Nothing to see here. You can go back to your post," I said, trying to sound official. The officers holstered their weapons and returned out into the hallway to stand guard. We laughed like a group of teenage girls at a slumber party as Charlotte and Jillian settled back into the bed with me. "As for you, Jillian, my leg is not metal, and it doesn't squeak. The knee on my good leg, on the other hand, pops every now and then, but that's because I'm getting old," I said, moving my one good leg. "The 3 of us are the same age. I'm not getting old," Jillian commented. "Maybe in your head you're not getting old, but I've heard your hip pop, Grandma," Charlotte teased. "All right, ladies, can we grow up for 5 minutes so I can tell you what I read?" I asked. The 2 of them quieted down, and I went over what I had read the night before while they were sleeping. They listened intently and gasped at certain moments. What a bitch! I knew she was lying, Charlotte said when I had finished. The story she told us in your office sounded way too rehearsed. I can't confront her because then she would know we went through her stuff. We need to think of a way to trick her into telling us what she had planned, I said. And how are we going to con her into telling us? Jillian wondered. Well, now that she's talking, we might be able to get her to slip if we ask her what made her decision to come to the center, Charlotte suggested. She planned this whole scheme. There is no way she's just going to offer up the information. She has probably come up with some sort of script to go by if she was confronted with anything, Jillian advised. Jillian's right. If she lied to get in, who's to say she won't lie if we ask her about the situation? I mentioned. Go ahead and set up a meeting with Amber in my office today after lunch. Charlotte, if you promise to be good, I'll let you sit in on the meeting. But you have to promise not to shout out at her that she's a liar. I promise I will sit quietly and just listen, Charlotte said, placing one index finger vertically over the center of her lips. Maybe I can get her alone, outside of the center, and see if she tells me anything, I suggested. Do you really think that's a good idea? If she's helping the person who wants to kill you, if you get her alone, she may set you up, Charlotte pointed out. In one of her entries, she says she needs me to trust her so she can get me to go with her when my time comes. I plan to leave the center with her in my car to make sure that it's sooner rather than later. What if she's planning to take you somewhere in order to kill you? Jillian said, gnawing on her thumbnail. And that is why the two of you will be following us. Also, Rage seems to think that our relationship is more than what it really is, and the way he has treated Jasper, we are going to leave him out. Any correspondence for trouble needs to go through Agent Lee, I told them. This sounds very dangerous. What if we all get caught? Jillian asked. That is why we're going to run the plan by Agent Lee first. Let her know what we are going to do and see if she has any suggestions to keep me safe, I explained. Let's go get some coffee and visit with Faith now so we can be ready when you meet with Amber later, Charlotte commanded. Charlotte and Jillian slipped off the bed, apprehensive for the adventure ahead. Jillian handed me my prosthetic leg, and the three of us dressed for the day. I decided to wear a tank top and shorts due to the fact that the temperature outside that day was going to be in the mid-90s. I pulled my hair up into a ponytail to get it out of my face and off my neck. I was ready to find out what Amber had been planning for me. When we arrived to the dining area, several guests were already congregating around the percolators. We each stepped up to the table, grabbed a to-go coffee cup, and took turns pressing the handle down, extracting coffee from the percolator, one at a time. I added French vanilla coffee creamer to mine, as Jillian added hazelnut, and Charlotte added half and half. Mrs. Mackenzie, what is going to happen to the center now? I mean, with Wendy's death and all, Delilah Hughes wondered. Delilah had come to the center shortly after it opened. She was the victim of a home invasion. 3 masked men forced their way into her home and tied her up. They spent hours in her house, rummaging through her personal belongings and gathering electronics and jewelry, probably to pawn. She wasn't physically hurt in any way. Once they were gone and she knew they weren't coming back, she was able to free herself and contact the police. She was transported to the hospital and checked out due to rope burns around her wrists and ankles and superficial bruising. Once she was released, she didn't feel safe going back to her home. So the nurse had contacted me knowing the center had just opened and wasn't yet housing very many guests. I agreed to allow her to stay with us until she felt safe to go home. She came in for a preliminary meeting so we could decide where to place her. She showed up with only the clothes on her back and was absolutely refusing to go home for any other belongings. I decided to place her on the 3rd floor with the long-term residents. She leaves the center every morning to go to work, helps clean up, and cook, as well as assisting with donations and fundraising. Charlotte went with her once to her house to retrieve a small wardrobe for her to have clothes to change into, and Charlotte informed me that Delilah had a panic attack in the driveway and refused to get out of the car. We assisted her with putting her house on the market to sell so she would no longer have to carry that burden, and Jillian supervised a moving crew in order to remove all of Delilah's belongings from the home. She is one of about 10 guests that pay a regular monthly rent for a private room. We're going to continue as usual and honor Wendy's memory with a candlelight vigil tonight out in the garden, I told her. That would be nice. I know Wendy wasn't well liked around here, but she should still be remembered, Delilah said. What do you mean not well liked? She was always she was always surrounded by other guests talking and laughing, I inquired. That's because she was the gossip queen. She always knew everything about everyone and felt the need to share, Delilah stated. The other ladies who stood with her only nodded in agreement. Why didn't anyone say anything? We would have talked to her. We told Miss Gabrielle, but she told us to quit being so sensitive. That is outrageous. Jillian, set up a meeting with Gabrielle and make sure it is convenient for all of us to be there. Thank you, Delilah, I told her, placing my hand on her shoulder and holding eye contact for a few moments. Charlotte, Jillian, and I took our coffee and headed back to my office. I was outraged that Gabrielle wasn't only treating me badly, but also the guests. You know, I bet Gabrielle's reason for living on a large property as a vet was because she isn't very nice to people, I wondered out loud. What do you mean? Charlotte asked. When she found Ansley, she was out in her livestock pasture feeding the goats. Gabrielle brought her back to the main house where her vet office was located. I think she was out there by choice. She had to have she had to have chose her isolated lifestyle due to the fact that she doesn't have people skills. I explained. We're going to have to approach this situation carefully. Maybe we can find her something else to do. She apparently doesn't need to be working with people, Charlotte began. She doesn't play well with others, Jillian joked. We need to get her away from the group sessions. We knew Wendy was a gossip, but we didn't know how it affected our other guests. If Gabrielle knew Wendy was causing harm to the other guests, she would have handled it differently, I said. Jillian began checking schedules and finding the right time for us to talk to Gabrielle. She also had to find time for me to sneak out with Amber so we could find out what she was up to. First priority is to inform Agent Lee of our plan with Amber. Since all of our group sessions have been canceled for the rest of the week due to the tragedy, we should meet with Gabrielle after we talk to Faith, I suggested. Sounds good. What time should I tell Gabby to be here? Jillian asked. How about we talk to Faith, then we can just call Gabrielle to come to my office. Without the group sessions, she should only be busy transcribing her notes from yesterday, I told them. Okay, so what time was Faith going to be here today? Charlotte inquired. Since she's having the technical analyst look up information about Detective Rage, she could be in at any time. What time is it right now, I wondered. The clock says 9:23, Jillian informed. Okay, let me go ahead and call her and see where she is, I said, picking up my cell phone. As soon as it began ringing on the other line, Agent Lee poked her head into the office. I took a relieved deep breath and hung up. Thank goodness you are finally here. We need to talk, I told her as she entered the room and closed the door. What is going on? Did you find out anything about Amber last night? Lee asked. That girl should be locked up in prison, Charlotte told her. I need to know everything, Lee said sternly. I began telling Agent Lee what we found in the notebook, which in turn ended up into a discussion of our intentions with Amber. She sat silently across the desk from me, staring at me as though she were waiting for me to change my mind. I can't believe y'all decided to corner Amber into taking Mackenzie into a possible dangerous situation. You couldn't possibly know how this could turn out. What if Amber is the killer? Lee lectured. Amber hasn't left the center since she arrived. I'm pretty sure she isn't leaving to kill people, I told her. Maybe she hasn't left the center, but she could have murdered Wendy, and she could possibly be working with the killer. She could take you to where the killer is hiding out. Considering it is a different killer from before, what if this time she is shot or stabbed? Lee proclaimed. Directed at Charlotte, directed at Charlotte and Jillian. She was no longer looking at me. Technically it was my idea. I was the one who decided to allow Amber to take me. I told them to follow us and keep watch in case the situation goes bad, I told her. And what do you expect them to do if they hear gunshots? Run in and rescue you? Lee asked condescendingly. No, that's why we're telling you. When we get to where we're going, is to call you and let you know our location. And you contact the necessary law enforcement, I informed. Given all that has happened lately, do you want me to tell Rage or leave him out? Lee asked. Leave him out. He might find a way to blame Jasper for something else. By the way, did you find anything about him? I asked. So my technical analyst wasn't able to find anything on Carter Rage. The guy doesn't exist. But when he looked up Rebecca Carter and Rebecca Sims, it's the same person. There is a difference. There is a difference we found though. Rebecca Carter has 2 children, and Rebecca Sims only had 1. Of course, we know that Rebecca Sims was your mother, and she had 2 other children before you, under the name Carter. Rage seems to be incredibly involved in the Rebecca drama. He made quite a few comments when we were there to see the photo from May's house that made me think he knows more than what he is telling, Charlotte chimed in. That's true. He was very passionate when I mentioned the woman who claimed to be my mother. Also, I think that if Carter Rage doesn't exist, it might be possible that Carter could be his last name and maybe he is related to Rebecca somehow. And that could be his connection, I suggested. We were able to find both Rebecca Carter and Rebecca Sims had her children taken from her and placed into foster care. That includes you in that report. Unfortunately, because the older 2 were adopted, we don't have the original birth certificates for those children, Lee continued. So, how about the plan with Amber? Once we stop, Charlotte and Jillian will call you with the location and you can call in for reinforcements. I promise nothing will happen, I reassured Lee. Fuck. We won't let anything happen to her, I promise, Charlotte said to Lee. I feel responsible for her. I have watched her grow up since she was 6 years old. I checked up on her over the years and made sure she stayed out of trouble. I was contacted before she went to each and every one of her foster homes, and I checked them out before she was transferred. I wanted to make sure the home she was going into was safe. This is why your plan is a bad idea. If Amber is dangerous, you could be putting yourself in a dangerous situation, Lee said, beginning the conversation with Charlotte and Jillian and ending it directed at me. I'm trying to cover my ass by allowing Charlotte and Jillian to follow behind us and informing you of the plan is to assist with rescue if things go bad, I told her, as if I had everything figured out. In all honesty, I was completely terrified of what would happen the second I got into the car with her. I didn't know how mentally unstable she was and had no idea of her plan. Look, I'm only going to allow this because you seem to have a safety plan. You really should let the proper law enforcement take care of this. But knowing that law enforcement must have probable cause in order to arrest someone, this is probably the best way to catch her in the act, Lee conceded. Thank you, Faith. I feel safer knowing you're behind me on this, I told her. Lee turned and left. I picked up my cell phone and called Gabrielle. I needed to address her lack of caring for the guests at the center. Are you available to meet with us in my office? I requested when Gabrielle answered the phone. Sure, let me finish a few things and I'll be right there, she said just before she hung up. Charlotte and Jillian left to refill our coffees while I prepared for the discussion. As soon as they left the room, I took out a legal notepad. I began jotting down a few conversation points to bring up with Amber. I wrote down anything I felt seemed I wrote down anything I felt seemed normal so she wouldn't become suspicious. When Charlotte and Jillian returned, I turned the notepad upside down on my desk and looked up at them. I was only trying to hide it from them for the moment so we could focus on the discussion with Gabrielle first. Ooh, that felt like a long chapter. Holy shit. All your little thingies, those are so funny. Ah. Woo! Ooh! She's asleep. 8:32. Nice. She's asleep early. Oh man. It's starting to get good. It's starting to get good. Oh, starting to get good. It's been good the whole time. Edge of my seat type. Holy shit. Holy shit. If she's asleep early, that means that I can be up at 7 and do stuff before we sit down for cuddles. She always wants cuddles after breakfast and after lunch and after dinner. She likes cuddles. I love the fact that she likes to cuddle after she eats. It was something I started with her with the bottle, only because of the fact that if she had her bottle and started bouncing around, she'd, like babies do. So I started doing that after her bottle. She'd always have to lay down and relax. Exactly. Full belly cuddles. And I love it. She was refusing to eat until I put my hand in her seat, so I was trying to eat a hot dog like this. There's like barely any food in the house right now. I may have to do a Saturday morning pickup, or it'll have to be Saturday afternoon pickup. I'm going to have to get groceries to, like Saturday. I should get them tomorrow, but I think I'm just going to go get Taco Bell and not worry about it. I'm going to get Taco Bell with like a bowl of rice and beans. Aria loves those. Taco Bell rice and beans are good. I mean, ooh, and I could probably get some grilled chicken. Do they have like a side of grilled chicken? I can probably do. Ooh, I have grilled chicken in the freezer. I have her grilled chicken in the freezer. I'll just do it that way. Anyway, trying to come up with meals. I have eggs. She can do eggs in the morning. Sometimes she just wants a bottle. She doesn't really feel like eating. But yeah, so indecisive. Yes. This is why I have it right here. This is why I have a notebook that I started doing meal plans in, because yeah, otherwise I have no idea. If I already have it written down, I'll do it. As weird as that is. So now I need to start doing that in my planner, just putting meal plans down so I know what I need to get at the grocery store so I can make something. Yeah. Anyway, I sound like Hayden. Hayden did the same thing. She didn't know what to make for dinner, so then she just told Ethan, go make a sandwich. And then he's like, make a sandwich. And then he started singing. I got him into that song that, eat it shenanigans. Enjoy your food. Eat it shenanigans. Calvin works here. If you know that movie, you know that movie. I got that on Ethan's mind. It's funny. I love it. Woo! Okay. Chapter 20. Whew. When Gabrielle arrived at my office, Matthew was with her. Jillian took his hand and led him to the door. Can you go play with the other children while the grown-ups talk? Jillian requested, kneeling down at eye level to him. Sure. See you girls later, he said, heading away from the office. Jillian watched him walk down the hall. Then she closed the door. Gabrielle sat down in the same chair across my desk in which Lee had occupied an hour earlier. As Charlotte and Jillian found seats in order to include themselves in the conversation, I began. Gabrielle, do you like working here? I asked. Of course I do. What kind of stupid question is that? She replied. I'm only asking because some of our guests have voiced their concerns of your lack of compassion, I told her. Lack of compassion? I have sat day after day listening to these women piss and moan about what has happened to them. Gabrielle started. That's what I'm talking about. These women have been through so much in their lives, and you call their therapy sessions pissing and moaning? That shows lack of compassion, I retorted, slapping the flat surface on my desk. I listen intently and give helpful feedback in order for them to feel strong enough to go home, she said. A tear formed in her eye. The Ansley Kirkland Center for Recovery is supposed to be a safe haven for people to come to for help after a tragic event in their lives. They can stay as long as they like, and they shouldn't feel judged by either one of us or the other guests, I lectured. What are you talking about? She questioned. Wendy Mason was a mean bitch. We all knew that. But when another guest brings it to your attention, it should be addressed right away, not pushed aside as them being whiny, Charlotte chimed in. Do you have any idea how hard it is for me to come here every day? I never had any children, and Ansley was the closest I had to a daughter. She was taken from me, and I am reminded every day I walk through those doors. No one has ever asked me about my loss. Gabrielle broke down, tears streaming down her face. We are always here for you if you need to talk, Jillian told her. You always put up a tough facade around everyone, so we never know what you're feeling, I explained. Maybe if you stop blaming Mackenzie for Ansley's death, it could be easier for you to get over it, Charlotte told her. I don't exactly blame Mackenzie for Ansley's death. I just want to be mad at someone for what happened. Since the actual killer is dead, I blame the only other person who was there and is still alive, Gabrielle explained. Given the activities in the last 24 hours, we don't know how much longer she could be alive, Jillian pointed out, as though I weren't even in the room. Look, I know how hard this must be for you. I actually appreciate the fact that you did something to keep Ansley's memory alive, Gabrielle said, finally addressing me. I not only want to immortalize Ansley, I also want to have something to pass on to Matthew, I told her. That sounds great. He will absolutely appreciate that, Gabrielle said, looking down at her hands. Look, we have something that we are going to do tonight. Are you able to hang out here at the center and keep an eye on things until we get back? I informed her. What do you plan to do? Gabrielle asked. I gave her a rundown on our plan, including an explanation of what Amber Harwell had to do with it. She listened intently, her face contorted into several different expressions over the course of the conversation, from pursed lips to raised eyebrows to mouth agape and furrowed brow. In the span of 30 minutes, she had felt the anger, shock, and betrayal I had felt in the course of 2 days. Wow, I knew there was something off about her. Normally, it is children who go mute because of a tragedy, not adults. She was keeping quiet so she wouldn't incriminate herself, and it was easier for her to hatch up her plan and figure out what she was going to say happened to her, Gabrielle said vehemently. I need you to be more compassionate towards the guests. If they come to you with a problem, you need to reassure them that you are going to take care of it and actually handle it. Can you do that for me? I asked her. Of course, but only on one condition, Gabrielle agreed. Considering it is your job, I was hoping you would do it unconditionally. But if you need something from me in order to complete this task, name it. What is it I can do for you? I wondered. When you get back, I want to sit down with you and talk, she requested. Yes, absolutely. You got it. And if Matthew would like to talk as well, we can include him, I informed. I think the first few times I would like to discuss it alone. He's such a strong kid. I would hate for him to see me break down, crushing his will to keep strong, she said, wiping the tears from her eyes. He's 5. I would like to see him break down his barrier and pour out his true feelings about losing his mama, I explained. Let's just keep him Let's just let him simmer for the time being, and when he is ready, he will open up, Gabrielle said, looking around the room. I felt as though she was hiding something about Matthew. I thought perhaps she was talking to him when they were at home, and she wanted to keep it between them. I wanted to ask her what she was hiding from me, but at that moment, it would have to wait. I needed to focus on Amber and what I was going to get myself into. As the four of us stood to depart, I reached out and hugged Gabrielle, as well as giving her a reassuring pat on the back. Charlotte and Jillian fell in line, hugging her one at a time. After Gabrielle left the office, Charlotte, Jillian, and I returned to our seats around my desk. I settled into my chair and turned over the legal pad I had begun my list of conversation starters on and discussed them with my cohorts. You could ask her about her childhood, but she might lie about it, Charlotte said. Oh, I'm counting on it that she does. I want to see her reaction when I ask about her parents. I want to see if she rehearsed the story or if she comes up with it on the spot, I told them. I don't you think it might be a little risky? What if she figures out that you read her journals and she decides to kill you? Jillian asked, her voice wavering as she interlaced her fingers and twisted her hands. If that happens, then I will be glad to have you two behind us. Just in case she decides to throw my body out of the car, y'all can pick y'all can pick up the pieces and give me a proper burial, I giggled. That's not funny, Jillian said, standing and walking over to look out the window, which looked over the reception area. Oh, come on, Jilly. I was just kidding. I'm going to be careful enough so she doesn't figure it out, I told her, stepping up behind her and placing my hands on her shoulders. She turned quickly, jerking my hands away from her. Don't joke like that. It's not funny. We almost lost you twice before because of something like this. Please don't make it a third. Running off the theory that she has 9 lives, since it has only been twice, she still has 7 more times to go, Charlotte joined in on the joke. Well, I don't think it's funny. I'm going to try to get some work done. Let me know when we are leaving, Jillian said, leaving the office. Charlotte and I shrugged our shoulders at each other. Then she left to follow Jillian. I gathered my thoughts in preparation for my discussion with Amber. Whoo! Leftover chicken. Man, this is juicy bits. Juicy bits. All right. Chapter 21. There's only 25 chapters, so we are almost there. As I approached Amber's room, I found myself becoming nervous. My heart began beating so hard, I thought it was going to jump out of my chest. I was breathing so heavily. It was as if I had just run a marathon. Standing outside the door before knocking, I took a deep breath and prepared myself for possible execution. 3 short raps on the door with my knuckles was all it took for Amber to let me in. Come in, Amber said through the closed door. Hey, Amber, can we talk? I requested as I entered the room and closed the door. Hey, Mackenzie, what's going on? Amber asked as I stepped past her and moved through the room to a chair by the far wall. Well, now that we have you talking, I was wondering if you would be willing to discuss your childhood with me. I dove right in head first. What does my childhood have to do with what happened to me? I think you would be surprised how much our childhood affects our actions in our adult lives, I attempted. Then shouldn't this be a question you ask the man who raped me? I'm trying to get to the reason why you would shut down and not speak to anyone for as long as you did. Well, my childhood was awful, and I don't feel comfortable discussing it with Tweedledee and Tweedledum standing right outside the door, she said, referring to the 2 officers which were assigned to protect me from the killer. No problem. I have an idea. Follow me, I whispered and moved toward the door. I led her out of the room and up to the reception area. Wait here. I need to get something from my office, I told her. She waited with the 2 officers as I went to grab my purse and car keys. I peeked at my list of conversation topics one more time before heading out to the reception area. The two officers were distinctly different. The one named Bailey was about 6 foot 2 inches tall and extremely thin. He was bald, but by choice, not genetics. The other, named Darren, was about 5 foot 6 inches tall with dark black hair and a fit body tone. Shall we? I asked her when I reemerged, motioning toward the front doors. We headed toward the exit to leave. I could feel the presence of the two officers close behind us, so I stopped and turned around to face them. Excuse me, officers, but is there any way you two could stay here? I need a private session with her, and she doesn't feel comfortable discussing her situation in front of others. I told them, contorting my face in a way that said I had a secret. Can't you just have the private session in your office? Bailey asked. We would be constantly disrupted. I need to talk to her where there won't be any disruptions, I explained. I'm sorry, Miss Tully, but we were instructed to stay with you at all times, Darren told me. Who told you that? I asked. Detective Rage, ma'am, Bailey answered. Oh, well, you're in luck. We're actually heading over there right now to see him. He's expecting us in half an hour. So either you can just let us go so we are not late, or you can continue to hassle us until Detective Rage gets worried because we didn't show up on time and he makes the trip here to make sure we are okay, I said, hoping they would take the explanation and back off. Luckily, the two officers didn't put up a fight and raised up their hands in surrender. I nodded my head in approval at them, then continued through the exit with Amber by my side. Wow, that was pretty impressive, Amber said as we approached my car. Would it be all right if I drove? It has been a long time since I was behind the wheel of a car. I miss it. I couldn't believe how easy this was becoming. My plan was turning out exactly as I had expected. I had to hold back my enthusiasm as I practically thrust the car keys at her. We climbed into my car and Amber cranked up the engine. Once we were on the road, she began talking. Okay, so you want to know about my childhood. My father was abusive and my mother was mentally absent. When my father left us, I had to take care of my brother and make sure my mother ate, she said. Blah, blah, blah was all I could hear in my head. I had stopped listening to her and began paying attention to the traffic in the side mirror. Amber made a left turn, then merged onto the freeway. I had no idea where she was going, but it didn't take long after that for me to spot Charlotte's car when she flashed her four-way flashers to signal to me that they were back there. Within an hour, Amber exited the freeway and turned down a side road. It was literally the road less traveled. There wasn't any other car on the road. It was only 2 lanes wide, with deep ditches on each side. Trees and pasture surrounded the scenery, and the lack of traffic worried me that Amber would notice Charlotte and Jillian behind us. I leaned forward and peered into the passenger side mirror. In the distance, there was a vehicle behind us, but I couldn't be sure it was Charlotte and Jillian. All of a sudden, I all of a sudden realized Amber had asked me a question. I'm sorry, what was that? I asked her. Who were your parents when you were growing up? She asked. My father was a deadbeat loser who left my mother before I was born, and my mother was more like a big sister who found me to be annoying. She abandoned me when I was 6, and I lived in the system until I met Charlotte and Jillian, I told her. That's a pretty vague description of your mother and a cheap shot at your father. If he left before you were born, then you don't know if he really was a deadbeat loser. Maybe your mother left him and didn't tell him she was pregnant, Amber said with a defensive tone. Okay, the story my mother gave me was that he was arrested before she knew she was pregnant, and when she received a letter from him saying he was getting out of prison, that is when she abandoned me and disappeared. I don't think he knew about me, but he can't be that great of a person if he was in jail for 6+ years, I admitted. For the next hour and a half, Amber drove deeper and deeper into the middle of nowhere. Every so often, I would see a house or a barn off in the distance on separate properties, with them being at least a mile or more apart. Still, there was Still, all there was to see was either trees and underbrush or pasture. I could still see the vehicle behind us, and I was praying that it was Charlotte and Jillian. It was so far behind, I couldn't be sure. Here we are, Amber said as she pulled up to a metal gate latched with a chain. The entryway was about the length of an intercity carrier bus from the street to the gate. Where are we? I asked, thinking this was where she was going to kill me. I imagined her strangling me with her bare hands, or shoving a plastic bag over my head until I stopped breathing. She would probably dump my lifeless body into one of the ditches. As quickly as the thought had run through my mind, Amber was able to surprise me. She was no longer the sweet Amber Harwell we all knew at the center. When I turned my head and looked at her, I was staring at into the barrel of a Beretta PX4 Storm subcompact 9mm pistol. Get out and go open the gate right now before I blow your brains all over the inside of your car, just like you did to my brother, she said through clenched teeth. I reached for the door handle slowly, and the door popped open. Amber opened her door as well. She aimed the gun, following my every move. As I stepped out of the vehicle, it hit me. She said, brother. Malachi was her brother? Making my way around the front of my car, Amber stood at the open driver's side door, aiming the gun at me. As I unlatched the hook from the chain that was holding the gate closed and let it hang from the pole it was attached to, I pushed the gate open. Amber walked toward me with the gun extended. She stepped around to the passenger side of the car and leaned into the passenger door as if we were in a police standoff. Get in, she said, motioning with the gun for me to take over driving. I complied with her request and slowly walked toward the driver's side of the car. I watched as she kept the gun aimed at me as I made my way around the car. I couldn't run because I knew she would probably shoot me in the back as I attempted to get away. Complying with her demands, I felt was my best complying with her demands, I felt was my best option to stay alive. Now drive, she ordered as soon as the doors were closed. As I drove down a man-made road, she continued aiming the pistol at my face. All the way down the dirt road, the trees arched overhead, creating shadows and an unnerving sensation. The house at the end of the road couldn't be seen from the main road, but I hoped Charlotte and Jillian knew which driveway to turn into. About half a mile into the property, there was a dilapidated farmhouse. Stop here, Amber told me, approximately 100 feet from the porch. Now get out. Go wait for me in front of the hood. I complied, exited the vehicle, and stood in front of my car, observing my surroundings. The windows were covered with newspaper, so I wasn't able to see into the farmhouse. The wooden front door had the varnish peeling off, and there was a screen door which was wide open. It creaked as it danced back and forth with the breeze. The wooden front porch looked as though it had seen better days, and the eggshell paint was cracking and curling away from the siding on the house. Amber climbed into the passenger seat and joined me at the front of the car. She pressed the 9mm Beretta barrel up against my back and led me up the steps to the front porch. The wood groaned under our feet with every step we took towards the front door. I felt as though this was going to be my end. It was time for me to die. Open the door, she ordered, pressing the gun deeper into my back. I turned the knob with one hand and pressed my other hand against the door. It didn't open. The door was stuck on something. I pressed harder, realizing that over the years, the natural lifespan of the door had passed, and the door frame was what was holding the door closed. I banged on the door with my shoulder, and it opened. As soon as the wooden front door had made contact and slammed into the wall, Amber shoved me inside before swinging the door closed behind her. Whoo! Ooh. Oh shit, it's going down. Hell yeah. $22. Because we got to continue. The room we had entered was dark, but I could tell it was a living room. The large open room had a sofa that appeared as though someone had sliced it with a knife, pushed up against one wall. In the center of the room was an old wooden chair that probably spent most of its lifespan out on the front porch of the farmhouse. There were hospital straps on the arms and two front legs of the chair. Considering I could become completely incapacitated if she removed my prosthetic leg, I felt the chair was unnecessary. Go over there and sit down, Amber ordered, shoving me to the chair. I stumbled across the floor and tripped on a loose board. Putting my hands out in front of me, I caught myself from slamming my face onto the floor. Pulling my right leg up underneath myself, I was able to stand up. I continued slowly, stepping toward the seat, and complied with the instructions I was given. There was a table just out of reach from the chair that had several sharp knives and a scalpel placed meticulously on top. She had strapped down my arms. As she had strapped down my arms, a man joined us in the room. He kept to the shadows, so I wasn't able to see his face. Amber set the gun down on the small table by the front door. The table was manufactured from old wood that either came from replacing the boards on the front porch or possibly an old wooden fence. She buckled the straps from the chair around my forearms and my one good leg. They were so tight on my arms, my hands began to tingle and lose color from the loss of blood circulation. Amber stepped back, away from me, retrieving the gun, and the man stepped up into what little light was in the room. Detective Rage? I exclaimed once I got a good look at his face. That is how you came to know me, but in actuality, my name is Brent Carter. He smiled at me as if the name meant something to me. I could see the look of frustration on his face grow as I shot him a puzzled look. Why would you go by an alias? If you're a cop, couldn't you just cover it up if you committed a crime? I scrutinized. You can't become a cop with a criminal record. At one time, I was married to Rebecca Sims. Well, Rebecca Carter. Does that name ring a bell? He asked. Rebecca Sims? You mean the woman claiming to be my biological mother? I inquired. So that would make me your father. And Amber here is your sister, Rage said, putting his arm around Amber's shoulders. I don't believe you. How can you prove that? I asked. Amber, bring out our special guest, he told her as he tucked her hair behind her ear. Amber skipped off and like a small child. Amber skipped off like a small child to another room. When she returned, she was pushing someone in a wheelchair. Once she made it out of the shadows and into the light, I could see the person she was presenting was Rebecca. Rebecca's face was pale, and she appeared to be having trouble catching her breath. Her left leg had been severed at the knee, and the wound was leaving a trail of blood. Rebecca, my dear, please explain to our darling daughter who we are so the four of us can move on and I can tell her what she did, Rage said calmly. Rebecca slowly lifted her head and made eye contact with me. He is your father. She is your sister, was the only thing she was able to gather the strength to say before lowering her head. That doesn't prove anything. You could have tortured her until she agreed to say that, I told him. Amber walked back over to me. Amber walked over to me and backhanded me across the face. Hard. I felt a single drop of blood emerge from the epidermal layer protecting my cheekbone and glide down my face. Watch your disrespectful mouth, bitch. Amber, please be nice to your sister, Rage told her. Why? She wasn't being nice when she killed our brother, Amber whined and stomped her foot like a child. Calm down and shut your mouth. Let me tell her the story, Rage said firmly. Amber crossed her arms and pouted. For someone who never spoke a word for months, she sure had a lot to say. What is she talking about, our brother? I asked. Rage slid the palms of his hands together, took a deep breath, and stared deep into my eyes. When your mother and I first got married, we were happy. We drank together. We partied together. We essentially had an all-around great time together. Then she became pregnant with Malachi. As soon as she found out she was pregnant, everything stopped. She stopped drinking. She stopped partying. She basically turned into a boring housewife. You didn't let that stop you. You continued to do whatever you wanted, while I became the responsible one. Unfortunately, that ultimately turned you into the abusive husband, verbally and physically. The only relief I was allowed was when I was pregnant. Rebecca mustered the strength to defend herself. I would never put my child in harm's way. As soon as Malachi was born, I was a protective father. When she became pregnant with Amber, I was overjoyed at the thought of having a little girl. Even Malachi was happy about the prospect of a little sister to protect. He was 11 months old, and we were once again a happy little family, ready to embrace a new member coming into the world. Rage said, reminiscent. Once Amber was born, the abuse started up again. Rebecca chimed in. Yes, yes, you have already established that I beat you. Now, if you don't shut up, I will beat you. I will beat on you until you no longer speak, Rage said to Rebecca. He turned back to me to finish his story. By the time Malachi was 2, I had taught him a bad habit. As the years went on, Brent became increasingly more violent. Around that time, Amber was 3, Malachi was 4, and he was forcing himself upon me and beating me if I cried. One night he beat me so badly, I ended up in the hospital and he ended up in jail. Rebecca filled in parts of the story. I was handed a sentence of 10 years in a correctional facility, of which I served 7. I sent a letter to Rebecca informing her of my release. But by the time I got home, she was gone, and so were my children. Rebecca, tell her what you did when I was incarcerated, Rage explained. Brent, please, Brent, help me, Rebecca pleaded with Rage. He grabbed a roll of gauze from a table beside him. With a heavy sigh, he sauntered over, knelt down in front of her, and wrapped her bleeding wound. Now, tell her what happened to her siblings when I left, Rage coerced. I was in the hospital when he was arrested. The doctors were telling me I was going to be there for at least a week because I was pregnant again. With you. An abuse counselor that was assigned to my case suggested I allow Child Protective Services take your brother and sister into custody until I got back on my feet. I was an only child, and my parents had died, so I had no one else to take care of my children and nowhere to go. I didn't have a job, so I had no income. She put me in touch with a group of previously battered women that would help with bills for 3 months so I could look for a job and get my children back. I packed up my things and moved to a small community designed to help battered women and their children start over without their abuser. Rebecca stopped for a moment to take a breath and then continued. I found a job as a receptionist and was able to bring both Malachi and Amber home when I was about 5 months along. Unfortunately, within weeks, Malachi was uncontrollable and abusive toward Amber and me. He also threatened to kill you when you were born, so I gave him back to Child Services. They decided if I couldn't take care of him, then I didn't need Amber either. My brother never abused me. He loved me, just like Daddy loved me. You were the only one who had a problem, Amber chimed in. You were too young to remember. He shoved you and hit you, Rebecca defended. Nothing other than normal sibling rivalry. He never left marks on me and never hurt me maliciously, Amber retorted. Amber, let your mother finish. Rebecca, as you were. Rage turned his focus. When Child Protective Services took over care for Malachi and Amber, they were split up and adopted out to separate families. I was afraid they would take you too, so I packed my things and moved again. That's when I moved in next door to Auntie May. She helped out a lot in my 3rd trimester and even took me to the hospital when I went into labor. After you were born, I gave you my maiden name, Sims, and decided to change my name back as well. May helped take care of you when I worked 2 jobs to make sure you were provided for. Everything was fine until I received a letter from Brett stating he was coming home to see his wife and 2 children. He didn't know about you, and I wasn't going to let him corrupt you like he had done to the other 2, Rebecca finished. I did not corrupt our children. I enriched their lives. I taught my son not to take shit from his wife and taught my daughter that as long as she keeps her man happy, She won't get backhanded, Rage stated matter of factly. So your decision with the first two was to give them up, but with me, what the hell? I was 6 years old, you crazy bitch, I yelled at Rebecca. This is good. Keep that anger towards her. Use that resentment against her, Rage said, as though he were directing a movie. You can just bring down the enthusiasm, I told Rage. Your son is the one who did this to me. I flexed the muscles in my stump to lift my prosthetic about an inch off the floor. If he was so excited to take care of his little sister, that would mean that that would mean he would be protective of both of us his whole life. Unless you said something to him that caused Malachi to lash out toward women this way. When I showed up to reclaim my family and realized they were gone, I made it my life's mission to find them. I changed my name and became a cop. I worked my way up to detective and searched for my children. I found Malachi first. I went to the home of his adopted family and ran surveillance on them for a week before I decided to take care of them. I waited for Malachi to leave for school, broke into the house through the back door, and murdered the two people who had been taking care of him for the years I was gone. I waited for Malachi to come home, and we disappeared on an ATV he had in his backyard. No one saw me go in, and no one saw us leave. The neighbors mentioned they had a son, but no one really searched for him. They just put him in as a runaway and waited for him to come back. I did my own detective work and was able to eliminate him in the system as a runaway / missing child. I changed his status to found. After speaking with Rebecca's neighbor, May, I found out about you. I told Malachi, oh shit. I told Malachi we were looking for Amber and the baby his mama had. He was so upset his mother had given him up, but kept you. He was determined to kill you. Every girl he saw that he thought was you, he would abduct, torture, and murder. The rape was his idea. I didn't even know he was doing that to his victims. I take full responsibility for that due to allowing him to watch when I would force myself onto his mother. When we found out you had survived, I told him how disappointed I was that he allowed you to get away. So he became obsessed with finishing you off. Once he was arrested and we found out he had got you pregnant, I assisted in his prison escape so he could finish what he started. Unfortunately, he was unable to complete that, and you killed him. That was when I brought Amber in to gain your trust, so I could kill you myself. Rage paused for a moment. Why would you want me dead instead of getting to know me? I asked him. You never thought to look for your biological parents. You just grew up and continued to live your life. Don't you think that was a slap in the face to the one parent who never met you? Amber was riled up. I didn't want to look for a mother who abandoned me and a father who I was told left when he found out my mother was pregnant with me. Why would I want to look for two people who didn't want me in their lives? I retorted. When I found out about you, Malachi was 11, Amber was 9, and you were 7. Malachi was the first to come live with me. We planned for years how we were going to eliminate you. Shit. We planned for years how we were going to eliminate you, Rage said maniacally. Oh, shit. The shit. Ha ha ha! It's a family affair. Christy Jorgensen. Ding, 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 ding. By the way, I did not know that was going to happen with Rage. He did that all on his own. As I was writing the book, that's how it came out. I didn't know that when I started that book. Or when I started this book. All right. 23. Rebecca, say something. Amber, help her. Rebecca's eyes were closed, and she appeared to be barely breathing. Blood pooled beneath her. She can't help you. She's barely alive. Soon you will be barely alive, Rage said, picking up a scalpel from the counter next to him. Amber picked up a few items off the same counter and knelt down in front of Rebecca. She removed the blood-soaked bandaging that Rage had half-assed wrapped around her amputation wound and began dabbing at it with antiseptic. As Amber administered first aid to Rebecca, Rage was healed. I'm sorry. Rage was headed in my direction, wielding a sharp blade. Rage knelt down in front of me and removed my prosthetic leg. He stroked my stump as though he were trying to find the perfect spot. Placing the scalpel against a section of scar tissue, he traced along the hideous deformity inflicted upon me. I could feel the blade pierce my skin. The sting I felt as a circle was formed at the end of my stump was only temporary, as several epidermal layers down to the muscle were separated. The excruciating pain transformed into only pressure. Why are you doing this to me? I forced through clenched teeth as rage peeled the circular section of my skin away from my stump. You are the result of evil, and you have lived up to that evil. All evil must be eliminated. Thanks for the help with Malachi. He's just one less to eliminate, Rage said, placing the skin he had removed from my stump over my arm. What are you talking about? Amber asked. What do you mean, one less to eliminate? How many are you planning to murder? Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll let you watch before you befall the same fate, Rage told her. Oh, that was Amber. Okay. Wait a minute. You said we would live happier together after we told them what kind of hell we had been through all these years. Now you're going to kill me? Tears formed in Amber's eyes. What have I taught you all your life? Rage asked. Amber sniffed hard and wiped the tears off her face. The look on her face made her appear as a small child. She looked down at the floor and shrugged her shoulders. Come on, you know, I always told you. Never trust anyone. Even the ones who say they love you will betray you at some point. If it makes you feel any better, we can die together instead. I was going to last. But we can put our heads together and take one bullet to the brain at the same time, Rage said, as though he were trying to comfort her. He picked up the gun and rubbed his shirt against the barrel as if he were polishing it. You're a sick bastard, I said, my voice weak from blood loss. No one is talking to you, bitch, Rage said as he backhanded me across the face with the hand that held the gun. Black and white spots flashed in my line of sight. I tilted my head back and closed my eyes as I concentrated on my breathing. I allowed my head to fall forward. What the fuck, Dad? This was not the plan. Put the gun down, I heard Amber yell. Look, you knew this was going to be the end result. I don't know why you're trying to save her now, Rage argued. I've gotten to know her. She's actually a nice person. I can't believe you. You were supposed to be plotting against her, not getting to know her. That's it. You're going first. I lifted my head and opened my eyes, just in time to see as Amber lunged at Rage and they both fell to the floor. She managed to get the gun out of his hand and aimed it at him. Amber, please, you can't kill me. I'm your dad, Rage told her right before she pulled the trigger and shot him 3 times. She wanted to ensure he would never get up again. Freeze! Put the gun down! I heard Lee shout as the wooden door slammed open against the wall. No, I have to finish this, Amber said, still pointing the gun at Rage's lifeless body. My eyes panned over to see Lee and 10 other officers aiming their weapons at Amber. Amber, there is no reason for this. Just put your gun down. We just want to talk, Lee negotiated, placing her gun back in its holster. I want to make sure he can't hurt any more people, Amber said. We are the FBI, Amber. We are here to help you. We just want to make sure you have the help you need, Lee told her. No, I'm just as guilty as he is. I lured her here, and it is my fault that my sister and my mother have been injured. Amber raised the gun to her temple and she closed her eyes. I lowered my head and closed my eyes again, waiting for the impact of the bullet. The loud bang of the gun startled me, and I lost consciousness. Before I opened my eyes, when I regained consciousness, I could hear the blaring siren. I knew I was in an ambulance once again. I opened my eyes and saw Jillian sitting next to me, tears streaming down her face, staring at her hands. I reached over and touched her hand. "Oh, thank goodness you're alive," she said, squeezing my hand. "What happened?" I asked. "Charlotte and I followed you and Amber to that house like we planned. We parked by the gate and waited until y'all went inside. Then we got out of the car, walked onto the property, and snooped around outside, peeping in the windows. We saw Amber and Rage. Then we saw what they had done to Rebecca. Charlotte called Lee and told her what was going on and where we were. She told us to stay outside and away from the windows so we wouldn't get noticed. We walked back to the car and stayed by the road waiting to hear the sirens. It was about 20 minutes. We didn't hear any sirens, but we saw the flashing lights. As soon as the caravan pulled up the driveway, we heard gunshots," Jillian explained. "Oh no, was I shot?" I asked frantically, feeling around my torso for bullet wounds. "No, ma'am, you were not shot. Your site of amputation was reopened and technically flayed," the EMT told me. "Then who was shot?" I asked. "Detective Rage. Amber shot him," Jillian told me. "He said his name was Brett Carter. He changed his name so he could be a cop and no one would find his felony conviction. I saw Amber shoot him 3 times. When Lee came in, just before I passed out, I heard a 4th gunshot. What about Rebecca? Is she okay?" I asked. "She lost a lot of blood, but she will be okay," the EMT said. "She's in another ambulance, but she wasn't shot either." "Well, aren't you just full of good news today?" I told him. "Did Amber shoot herself?" As the EMT administered first aid to my stump, he looked up and flashed a smile at me. It was a sort of mechanical smile rather than genuine. "No, Lee shot Amber, but she's okay. She was shot in the leg. Lee only wanted to disarm her," Jillian told me. "Where are Charlotte and Faith now?" I inquired. "Faith is still at the crime scene collecting evidence. She will meet up with you at the hospital to ask you a few questions about Amber, Detective Rage, and Rebecca. As for Charlotte, she's in the car behind us. Does anyone know about Jasper? Has he been released from the police station?" I asked, trying to prop myself up on my elbows. "Ma'am, please lay back down," the EMT said, placing his hand on my shoulder and forcing me back. "Fine," I said, complying. "Faith said she would make sure he was at the hospital waiting for your arrival," Jillian assured me. "He better be. I can't believe this is happening to me again. Maybe I should have Faith do a background check on all the police officers and detectives at the station so I can feel safe. I can't believe Rage turned out to be the copycat killer," I told her. "That just seems outrageous. So not only was he murdering innocent people, he was also psychologically torturing you and running the facade that he was there to protect you. What an asshole." "Whoa, Jillian, language," I told her, laughing. "Oh, yeah, coming from the one who curses like a sailor." I was kidding. You don't usually say things like that. I was just surprised. Sometimes situations arise where it is appropriate to use that kind of language," Jillian said. I relaxed back onto the gurney and remembered the time I was in the hospital shortly after my botched amputation that was supposed to have killed me. Jasper had climbed up into the hospital bed with me and held me while I slept. I just wanted to feel safe again, and the only time I felt safe was wrapped in Jasper's arms. When when we were kids, living in the same foster home, one of the other boys shoved me and I fell into a slimy mud puddle. I just sat in the sludge, feeling sorry for myself, while the other children laughed. Jasper came over, helped me up, and assisted me with cleaning myself, while he still allowed me privacy while I changed my clothes. The two of us stayed in our room together and laid facing each other on his bed, talking. He made me feel better about myself and never once made fun of me or laughed at the situation. He could tell I was embarrassed by what had happened to me. But if I didn't bring it up first, he didn't mention it. As the ambulance pulled up to the hospital, I began to feel anxious in anticipation to see my husband again. I lifted my head up as the back doors to the ambulance opened. I saw Jasper standing there, waiting. My stump was bandaged and I didn't know where my prosthetic was. I was unable to get up, although the EMT most likely wouldn't have allowed me to anyway. I was wheeled out of the ambulance onto the gurney, and Jasper approached as soon as the wheels hit the ground. Are you doing okay? Jasper asked. I'm alive, so I guess so, I answered. Who did this to you? Jasper asked through clenched teeth. Detective Rage, I answered. What the hell? Sir, we need to get her into surgery, the EMT told him, pushing Jasper away from me. Wait, can't he go with me? I begged, reaching out for Jasper. I'm sorry, Miss Tully, but he isn't allowed in the operating room, the EMT told me. I need him to be there, at least until I get the anesthetic to put me to sleep, I requested. You'll have to talk to the doctor, but for now, I need to get you inside, the EMT said. I reached out and grabbed Jasper's hand and refused to let go. Charlotte walked up and stood next to Jillian just in time for me to see her before I was wheeled inside. When I was led into the operating room with Jasper still by my side, I felt safe. I didn't know what the future had in store. A female nurse hooked me up to an intravenous drip as a male nurse injected a vial into the IV. Within seconds, I was drifting off. Mm. Mm. Hey, thanks, Christy Jorgensen. Hold on. I all of a sudden, out of nowhere, started thinking about the chocolate that my mom left me at the house. I like white chocolate. So she had white chocolate candy. Carol, why are you up? Lay down. I picked it up and I said, oh, old lady candy. It's one of those Lindor chocolates. She says it's white chocolate. They don't like white chocolate, which is fine. So I was kind of excited about it. I'm not going to eat it right now. I still have 2 chapters to read, but woohoo. White chocolate. Just wanted to look. I like white chocolate. Plus, fun fact, dark chocolate's actually high in potassium. So I can have white chocolate. It's okay. Ha! Now we've got to go. And then. Because there's still 2 more books to go. All right, 24. Hey, Miranda! All right. The next time I opened my eyes, Jasper, Charlotte, and Jillian were sitting around the room chatting. I laid still, just listening to them talk. I'm surprised she had the balls to do it, Charlotte said. I heard the door open and the 3 of them turned toward the door, and Jillian spoke. It's about time, guys. I slowly turned my head, glancing over at the 2 men who had just entered the room. Mark and Tom had brought food. I went ahead and shuffled in the bed to get everyone's attention. My whole body felt a little weak from the anesthetic I was given before surgery. Hey, honey, how you feeling? Jasper asked, stepping up to my bedside. A little weak and somewhat nauseated, I said, trying to swallow the nausea down. Hey, must be we made good time. Good morning, sleepyhead, Mark said, placing one bag of food up onto the rolling tray next to the bed. Can you help me sit up a little straighter? I asked Jasper. Jasper pressed the button to raise the back of the bed slightly. I shifted just enough to adjust the positioning of the bed so I could eat. I didn't want Mark to feel offended if I rejected his offer. He could sometimes be as sensitive as Jillian. I think that's why they were a perfect match. Tom placed the bag he was carrying next to the one Mark had on the rolling tray. The two of them began producing styrofoam boxes from the bags and distributing them to everyone. How about a little story time? Charlotte said after everyone was settled with their food. What's the story? I asked. You tell us. What happened? Jillian requested. Oh, well, since everyone is here, I may as well. Detective Rage is actually Brent Carter, my biological father, I began. This whole time he knew he was your father and never said anything? Tom asked, joining the conversation. I think he was more just trying to get to know me at first. He may have coerced Malachi into killing me due to the fact that they felt betrayed by both my mother and me, but I think after I survived, he really just wanted to gain my trust and get my side of the story before he was able to murder me. I think either way, his ultimate plan was to kill me eventually. I said, You sound like you're trying to defend his actions. He was an asshole, and he wanted to kill you. Who does that? Charlotte said. I'm not defending him in any way. I'm actually just talking through a potential scenario as to why he would want to kill his children. Also, Malachi and Amber are the two older children produced by Rebecca Carter, I told them. Holy fuck! Malachi was your brother and Amber is your sister? The more you look into your family, the more fucked up it becomes, Charlotte added colorfully. I believe I am done with looking into where I came from. I have a mother figure, Faith, two sisters, and a husband. I have all the family I need right here in this room, I said, sweeping my arms through the air in front of me as to acknowledge everyone. Aw, you mean us too, don't you, Kenzie? Tom said. I sure do. You and Mark are the best brothers anyone could ever ask for, I told him. You still have me. I can be here for you I can be here for you if you would like to continue our relationship, Amber said from the doorway. Get out. How did you get in here? Were you arrested at the farmhouse? Charlotte said, standing. I just wanted to make sure my sister was okay, Amber replied quietly. You're the reason she is here. You are the one who took her into the lion's den. You should go fuck yourself and stay away from Mackenzie, Charlotte told her, stepping up into her face. I'm not here to cause any trouble. I just want to talk to Mackenzie and explain. If you want to talk, then talk. No one is leaving, and it saves me the time of repeating the conversation to all of them, I told Amber. Charlotte backed away from her and returned to her seat. Amber was using crutches and had a bandage wrapped around her calf on her leg. She stepped into the room just far enough to close the door. We all focused our attention on her. Her months of trying to be invisible at the center were taking over her ability to speak. She looked at everyone around the room and gnawed on her lower lip as though she were trying to hold back her words. Come on now, Amber. Explain yourself, Charlotte urged. Dad had recruited Malachi to eliminate Mackenzie because she never tried to find him. He was just upset she didn't want to know who he was or where she came from, Amber said quietly. She was told her father left when her mother was pregnant. Why would she go looking for someone who didn't even want to meet her? Jasper asked. He didn't know she existed. The neighbor lady was the one who told him that Rebecca even had a third child and that she had abandoned that child in a hotel, Amber defended. Her name was May, who, I might add, was also murdered. She didn't even have anything to do with, a nurse asked from the doorway. I'm sorry, we're fine. We'll try to keep it down, I answered. The nurse stuck her bony finger out and pointed at everyone with her lips pursed before closing the door and leaving. I took a deep breath, then focused my attention back to Amber. I don't think he meant to kill her. His original intentions were to go talk to her to find out more about you and our mother. She had to have angered him in some way for him to react the way he did, Amber explained. Because homicide is a healthy expression of anger, Jillian commented. That's not what I meant. He had a temper and a bit of a violent side. That's what apparently, that was apparently, by the way, he abused our mother. Prison had to have exacerbated those anger issues, Amber replied. That would explain the reason why he chose the name Rage, Mark chimed in without looking up from his food. We all turned to look at Mark. He usually sat quietly and didn't contribute to the conversation. We watched him eat for a few moments in silence until he noticed the conversation had ceased and looked up. What? Oh, I'm sorry. That's not how that's supposed to go. What? He asked with a mouthful of food as he noticed all eyes were on him. Everyone laughed except Amber, who didn't understand what was funny. Jillian rubbed his back between his shoulders. It's so nice to hear you finally contributing after all these years, Jillian told him. Mark shrugged his shoulders and went back to his meal, continuing his mute behavior. Once our attention was back to Amber, she continued. He told me he was planning to kill you. He told me he wanted you to hear his side of the story, not just what our mother had told you. He said he wanted her to know his pain of being away from his children for all those years, and for you to see how it had affected him. I had gotten to know you after all these months at the center and didn't want him to kill you. Bullshit. You led her into the lion's den and allowed him to harm her, Charlotte reprimanded. Do you know what his significance was to the removal of the leg? I asked, wanting to understand why I was having to live sans one limb for the rest of my life. When he removed the leg of Malachi's adoptive mother, he said it was because being without his children was like losing a limb. Unfortunately, he told Malachi it was so she couldn't run away. Malachi adapted that theory into his killing, Amber explained. Essentially, dear old dad turned Malachi into a killer, I analyzed. Technically, it comes down to genetics versus environment, Charlotte began. Nature versus nurture, Jillian contributed. So, Amber, what happened to your leg? I asked her, just to see if she would lie about it. I guess the police frown upon suicide. One of the officers shot me in the leg when I aimed the gun at my head. As soon as I was shot, I dropped the gun and Agent Lee confiscated the weapon and handcuffed me. I was placed in another ambulance and brought here separately from you. They removed the bullet, and I told my story to Agent Lee. She allowed me to go free, and that she would put in her report that I saved you and Rebecca from the copycat killer, Amber explained. She just let you go? I asked, confused. There was one stipulation, she admitted. I have to leave and go far away and never contact you again. Amber lowered her head and looked at her feet. So you're telling me that Agent Lee just let you go? I asked. That's it. I have to go. I'm on my way across the country as far away from here as I can get. Agent Lee said she would be checking on me to make sure I wasn't anywhere near you, Amber said. Where do you plan on going? I asked her, curious. I don't know yet, but wherever I go, I cannot have any contact with you, and I'm not allowed back to the center to get any of my stuff. Agent Lee told me all of it is now evidence. I may end up going to jail for some of the items they will find in my room, but for now, I have a free pass to get away, Amber admitted. Did you tell that to Lee? Jillian inquired. Hell no. Do I look stupid? I was able to convince all of you to think I was just a victim. Do you think I would incriminate myself now by confessing to some shit that may or may not get me arrested? You're just a cold hearted bitch who only thinks about yourself, and you don't give a damn about anyone else, how your actions, and you don't give a damn about anyone else and how your actions affect others, Charlotte chastised. I'm just going to go. Look, don't worry. Agent Lee said the FBI will be keeping tabs on me to make sure I stay far away from you. You will never hear from me again, Amber said, opening the door and crutching herself out of the room. What the hell? Charlotte said. How could Faith just let her go? Maybe she had a reason. I'll call her and find out, I said, reaching for my cell phone. Just as it began to ring, I could hear the ringtone getting closer to the room from down the hall. I hung up when Lee opened the door. Was that Amber I saw coming out of your room? Lee asked. That's why I was calling you. Can you tell me why you decided to let Amber get off scot-free? I asked, irritated. Look, sweetheart, I talked to the district attorney, and he said if she gets herself a good defense attorney, she can claim self-defense. Plus, Brett Carter was trying to kill you, and technically she saved you. The DA said he won't prosecute. Lee explained. I get it, but she said you told her you would put it down as self-defense in the report as long as she stayed away from me. I didn't want to tell her that the district attorney wasn't willing to prosecute her. In her mind, she may feel like she got away with murder, but didn't think we had enough he didn't think we had enough evidence. I wanted okay. I wanted to make sure you would stay out of danger. So I sort of threatened her to stay away from you. I also told her I would keep her under surveillance to make sure she stayed away from you. Right now, she's driving down Interstate 10 on her way out of state. Does that mean Jasper and I can finally go on our honeymoon? I asked, lighting up with delight. Now, hold on, honey. Shouldn't we wait until you heal and are able to wear your prosthetic again? Jasper asked. That would be a question for the doctor. But as for safety wise, yes, you are free to finally go on your honeymoon. I will also keep my eye on you and checking on you regularly. Also, you can call me at any time if you need anything. I will always be here for you, Lee told me before she left. There's only one more chapter left. One more chapter left. And it's only like a couple of pages, so not much left to go. Chapter 25. All right. Luckily, I only spent 1 week in the hospital. Right after, dun dun dun. Right after I had been discharged, Jasper and I were packing up everything that the guests from the center had either sent over or had brought to me during my stay when the doctor came in. How are you doing? Nice. How are you doing? Are you getting around okay in the wheelchair? I asked. I'm okay for now, but having to sit for long periods of time might make me go stir crazy. When can I start wearing my prosthetic again? I wondered. The skin at the end of your stump will eventually heal over. It is going to scab over just like any other wound in order to protect the exposed area. Then it will heal and a new layer of skin will form. Until then, it is probably best not to wear your prosthetic leg due to the fact that it could prolong the healing process. Don't pick the scab. It could cause an infection that would require full amputation of what is left. If that is the case, you won't have enough of a stump to use a prosthetic. Now, until the wound is fully healed, we are sending you home with the wheelchair in order to make it easier for you to get around, the doctor explained. I have crutches. I can use those, right? I asked. Using the crutches could cause all your blood flow to put pressure on the exposed area and create a blood clot, which could turn out badly. Using the wheelchair is safer to ensure even blood flow through your body and better healing for the wound. Be sure to change the bandaging 3 to 6 times a day to keep it clean. Are there any other questions you have for me? The doctor continued. How long is this going to take to heal? Jasper and I are so ready to go on our honeymoon, I inquired. It could take as little as 7 days, up to as much as 14 days. Don't push it. Just allow it to heal and take it easy. I just want my life to go back to normal. Of course, as normal as it can be at this point in my life. I'm sure I can take care of myself. Thank you, doctor. Hopefully, I don't see you again anytime soon, I told him, shaking his hand. As the doctor left the room, Charlotte entered. At first, I thought she was there to help us with all the stuff that had accumulated during my stay. That was until she smiled at me. So, Mackenzie, I have a suggestion. Just hear me out because before you get mad, Charlotte said, picking at her fingernails. What do you mean, get mad? Charlotte, what are you suggesting? I wanted to know. Since Rebecca is now suffering from the same affliction as you are, do you think it would be in her best interest to come stay at the center until she is able to get used to her new lifestyle? Knowing that I was going to go home and begin the paperwork in order to admit Rebecca into the center as a new guest was not exactly what I wanted to do. Have you lost your ever-loving mind? Why the hell would I want to see this woman every day? I just want to go back to the way things were before all of this shit started, I told her. Mackenzie, she's now in your position. A complete psycho cut off her leg, and now she's having to figure out life as an amputee. Just think of her as another guest at the center who needs help coping with life, Jillian requested as she joined us. Fine, but if she decides that she wants to try to be my mother, I'm kicking her out on her ass, I told them. I didn't know if I was ready for her to be in my life regularly, but if she was just going to be around as a guest at the center, then I figured I could at least help her recover and set her up with a prosthetic that is comfortable and lifelike. Once we arrived to the center, I wasn't expecting the police to still be wandering about. There were several detectives removing boxes of items. I assumed the boxes of items from Amber's room, but I wanted to make sure and and tried to get out of the car before Jasper had even stopped. Whoa, Mackenzie, hang on just a minute. I will help you out, Jasper said, stopping the car. I tried stepping out of the car, then remembered I wasn't wearing my prosthetic. So I used all of the upper body strength to pull myself up and out of the car and stand on my remaining leg, leaning myself against the back door of the car as Jasper retrieved my wheelchair from the trunk. I wheeled myself up to the doors of the center. A uniformed officer opened the door for me and assisted me inside. Before I made it into my office, a detective approached me. "Excuse me, Mrs. Tully," he said as I reached for the doorknob of my office. "Yes? What can I do for you?" "I'm Detective Blake. I'm really sorry about what happened to you. Carter Rage was my partner, and we did a lot of things together. I didn't even know who he really was. If I would have known, I could have saved you," he said, looking down at the floor. "Detective, this is not your fault. He fooled a lot of people. He was focused on me, and he was going to do what he had to do in order to get to me. You can't live with a mindset of what if. The best thing for everyone connected to do to do is move on and be more aware of people in their lives. Don't worry about me. I have a great family that surrounds me with love and protection," I told him, touching his hand. Most of what I had said to him was part of my welcoming speech to the new guests. When I meet them for the first time, he nodded, squeezed my hand, then walked away to finish what he was doing. I opened the door to my office and wheeled myself over toward my desk. As I began putting together a new guest packet and gathering the paperwork for Rebecca's arrival, Jasper came in and pulled me away from the desk. "I have a ton of work to do. I have to get ready for a new arrival, and Charlotte tells me we have two guests checking out. I don't know if them leaving has anything to do with the Wendy incident or not, but we can't hold them hostage. I would, however, like to talk to them and make sure they are absolutely ready to go and they aren't just leaving because they don't feel safe," I told him. "How about you relax for once and let someone else take care of that? I would like for your leg to heal so we can finally go on our honeymoon," he said, kissing me on the forehead. "I would like to leave within the next 7 days," I told him as he wheeled me out of my office and toward the stairs. "Well, we are still packed, so we can plan what we are going to do on our honeymoon and get ready to leave. Let's change your bandages and keep it clean so we can leave as soon as you are healed," Jasper said as he lifted me up into his arms in order to carry me up the stairs. He left the wheelchair at the bottom of the stairs and took me to our bedroom, placed me on the bed, and began changing my bandages. I actually started to relax and allowed him to take over my first aid. Just as I allowed my entire body to relax, my cell phone rang. The call was coming from an unknown number, but I answered it anyway. "Hello?" I answered. "Mackenzie, it's Amber. I need your help." "All right, Christy Jorgensen, let me have it." uh, All right, so you want to know the good news or the bad news? I mean, I'm just asking. You want to know the good news or the bad news? Oh, thanks, Miranda. So, the good news is the story does continue right from there. Okay? So, the story does continue. You'll get all of that where she's all like, "What the fuck, Amber? You're not supposed to contact me." Blah, 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 blah. So, it does continue. The bad news is it doesn't continue until April. We got to do her backstory. We got to do her backstory. Bruh. We got to do her backstory. There is characters from her childhood that show up in this book. Plus the anticipation. This is why I always say you can read this one first or third. So if you read it first, it does end right where the first one begins. I want to kick you in your backstory. So this one here does end where the first one begins. Okay, so it kind of goes right into that, right? Makes it a little easier. That's why I say you can read it first. But if you read it third, the characters that are in here kind of, because this is her childhood, so the characters that are in here go into this book, which make it a little easier to remember the characters because they're not mentioned in the other two books. So I got a potty. We can't see you, Miranda. You can take us with you. No, I'm just kidding. But that's the only reason why I did it that way. So you can read it first if you want to. Otherwise, it is technically the third one. Absolutely. And I will read, I'll do the same thing with this one that I did with that one. I'll read a little bit of the last chapter right before I go into this so that you'll remember, oh, I remember that, kind of thing. So that's how that works. But, oh yeah. It's the whole point of remembering the characters because they're not mentioned in the first two. Absolutely. My phone has been going off like crazy. Dude, what the hell? Yeah, this one's March. This one's next month. Same days as it is this month. 10th, 11th, and 12th. Because, February and March have the same days. Ugh, am I at 100% yet with this? Because I need to unplug it. I hate the fact that he freaking does that shit. Do you think having an open house both weekends would bring more interest based on foot traffic from the first one, of course? What, both weekends? You're an idiot. You're a fucking idiot. Just randomly say shit that doesn't make any fucking sense. But okay, guy. Sorry. Supposedly, there's more signs out there. Yeah, supposedly there's more signs out there. So, supposedly, I say supposedly because she said there's a sign that she put up, and that email was sent to me while I was driving home. So, which means I would have passed it. I don't fucking remember passing it at all. I don't remember passing the sign. I don't remember seeing it, but hopefully there is a sign there. And I'm going to get Taco Bell tomorrow because fuck that, I need Taco Bell. I need some Taco Bell in my life. So I'm going to go do that tomorrow. See if there is more signs out there as to where they would be. She says the county likes to take them down. The county likes to take them down. Does it really? Does it really? I have no idea. I don't remember ever seeing signs where she says they were. But yeah, I know. Excuses. I don't remember ever actually seeing signs where they were, where she says they were. But like I said, I hardly ever leave the house, so I have no fucking clue. Oh, Sonic tater tots. Sonic tater tots are the only tater tots I will eat cold. Yep. If they are cold, I will still eat them. It's the only tater tots Sonic. I don't know why. It's weird. Contact the county and ask, hey. The problem is, though, is that she's sitting in 2 different counties, which she doesn't realize. Anything that's in town is one county, and anything down near us is a separate county. So why would she think that the county would take down a sign that's in town and then a sign that's out at the main road? That's 2 separate counties. Sonic ice. Yeah. So explain that to me. It's 2 different counties. In town is a different county compared to back here where we are in a separate county. I think it's ridiculous. I think she's wrong, but you know what? Let's hope that the open house yields something. The fact that she's not sending out the flyer to other realtors until Monday is kind of pissing me off. Now, Camaro, you know that Stormy calls that princess ice, right? I do too. I absolutely do too. I don't think she put signs up there. It wasn't until I had said something that she even thought about it. So, aw, where's he going? Where's he going, Miranda? Yeah, she definitely needs to do more. So, because I have this guy that I'm going to look at this house on Saturday with, I'm going to let him know, hey, can you, no, it's a different person. We ended up with a different realtor because she had a family emergency. The other one did. Aw. So he gets to ride the train. Yeah, when it came down to it, she ended up with a family emergency, so she wasn't able to come out and actually do the house. So. Woohoo. Oh, good. So tomorrow night, when I go live, and I'm just like, okay, let's have some fuckery here on the Tiki Talk, because I think that's where I've decided I want to do it. Oh, thank God, it's still for sale. Woo! It worried me when the price went down. I don't think so. I don't think so. Oh, yeah, sometimes that's hard too, Miranda. I don't think it's the same company, but this was a different person. So when it came down to it, when we were actually going to sign all the papers and go ahead and put the house up for sale, she said that she had someone else that she was going to recommend because she had a family emergency. And I was like, thank God I didn't like that woman. I did not like her at all. So for us to get a different one, and I loved it. The new one, oh my gosh. Oh, I know, right? But this woman here, I actually really liked her. I don't know. I have no idea. But if they are in New York, I'm not even going to bother with that. Um, but I actually liked her when she came here. Mine got his own room and bed. Nice. Um, she's actually really, she looked at me the entire time. She wanted my opinions on everything. Carl was an afterthought. So that is the reason why I was like, oh, this is perfect because she knows I'm the one who's here. She understands that I know a little bit more about certain things. And if I didn't know something, that's a him question. So she would ask him questions. And she kept telling him too that he needed to make sure that he helped me with certain things. And I was like, she's giving him a honey-do list. Bastard. That's why I liked her better. She was really sweet too. But when it came to down to it with the advertising and everything else, it was just so she's really nice. I really like her. It's just she's really bad at her job. But like I said, so the guy that's taking me to go see this house, he has, I guess they have several areas that they actually do. Like his office is in Houston, but they do several areas out here as well. And I was like, okay, good. So I'm going to talk to him and be like, hey, is there any way that you could put this on your list of we need to find buyers for this house? Exactly. We need to find buyers for this house. So whenever you have a client or something that comes in and needs to buy a house, I don't care if he does it. I don't care if someone else in his office does it. I don't give a shit. Just mention it. Something. I'm going to try to get everybody I, can possibly think of. And I also think that his little email that Carl sent that said, come March, we're going to have some changes. I fucking hate when he does shit like that. I think that has something to do with him wanting to drop the price. But fingers crossed, this house actually fucking sells. I can get this house and we don't have to worry about whatever the fuck his changes are. Yeah. I'm not worried about what his changes are. We can't, there's no way. There is no way we can drop the price of the house anymore. Absolutely not. Hey, I'm just glad that this house is still available because when the price dropped on it, I was like, uh-oh, am I going to lose it? You know? That's what I was worried about. I was worried that I was going to lose it once the price dropped. Ooh. Yes. Hold on. Sorry. The lady I got Aria from is talking about doing a another training class in Houston. It says Houston area, end of the month. Yes. Absolutely. Yes, please. Me. 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 Anywho. Uh all right, y'all. It is 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? I think only Christy Jorgensen gets that reference. Oh, yay, road trip. I know, right? So, tomorrow I will be live on TikTok at my normal time, 2 o'clock. I'm going to do that. I'm just going to continue that. Tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow night, tomorrow night is just a random. I'm just going to go live because I'm tired of being griped at about how much money I'm spending on groceries. And shouldn't you be looking at getting a job? What job? And to top it off, I have a job. Buy my books, link in bio. You heard from your son today? So I won't be doing any random battles, but if I'm on at any point in time when Creighton gets on, I need Miss Camaro to let me know when he decides to start doing battles. I don't care that he has thousands in his room. I don't care. I will still battle his ass. Okay, so you're going to buy them both when the new one comes out. New one comes out Friday the 13th, March. Friday the 13th. I don't care. He's so great. But anyway, I won't have Aria with me. Or maybe I should. Maybe I should just have Aria with me. I'll just be hanging out on the couch and see if Aria will fall asleep with me. I'll just hang out with her the whole day. The whole time. Absolutely. If you order them from my website, they will be signed. Nice. Oh, yeah, that'll help. Plus, if I have Aria just hanging out with me, oh, yeah. See? Heal you. I'll have Aria with me. She'll probably be asleep most of the time. As long as it's not too loud. As long as I'm not too loud. I can't wait until I can have a whole ass area for her. So she can go lay down if she wants to, and I can do nighttime lives and stuff like that. Love your face, Miranda. So anyway, that'll be how that's gonna go. I gotta put the synopsis that I wrote out last night on the back cover of the new book and replace the barcode. Cross my fingers and hope for the best. So there's that. Hopefully everything looks good. I mean, I can always hope for the best. It usually does. But anyway, I hope I didn't ruffle any feathers with my ending, but it always makes it look good. So everybody's going to be there tomorrow. We'll just be hanging out, shooting the shit, talking whatever we want. Horror stuff. Crazy horror stuff. Movies. I need to know if anybody has any good indie horror movies. I got a couple, but I know the people, so there's that. That's how I have the few indie horror that I have, is because I know the people, either the people who directed it or whatever. So anyway, all right, you guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I'm so glad that you enjoyed the book. It's amazing. You can see how my writing evolves the more I read. You'll be able to see how much better my writing gets. I will say that much. So I don't feel like I'm editing as much in my head. I am seeing some typos. Like there was one time where it was supposed to say bed, but it said bad. And I was like, oops. I skimmed right over it, totally had it. But anyway, all right, you guys.